accept the minutes? I'll make a motion.
Make a motion that somebody make a motion.
The motion has been made twice.
Okay,
Bill accepted.
There you go.
Fine.
Second.
A second, and all approved at this point. Come on, guys. You guys do a better job than this. We get camera shy, you know. This is only the third or fourth time we've been on camera.
We can do what we want, we're not on camera.
Yeah, we are. He's recording it, even from a distance.
we're on candid camera.
Yeah, smile.
Okay, we don't have a treasurer's report, but, you said this was, by the 24th, okay.
I think that's Thursday, right?
And today's 21st.
Well, I don't know what to, well, I won't be around tomorrow, so I gotta do it Thursday, I guess, and call Larissa or whatever, once we figure out what we want money for.
Actually, I don't know if you have to include Larissa on that or not. I know that when I was talking to Michelle last fall, she said just come in and see her, and whatever we wanted, they'd work with. I don't know what protocol is anymore.
I'm just going to tell Jennifer how that we, want $7,000 next year.
We can use it.
Well,
You
I'm
can
sure
get
we
it.
could, but I mean,
You know, a lot of it was protocol. And I know you guys wanted to get that, that check paid for, or money paid for that,
Mika?
for Mika. And that might be a good time too, to get it done.
That's already there, in theory, right?
Yeah, I know. In theory, it's
Well-
supposed to be there.
not all of it.
Should
Yeah,
be.
okay, so we need to, go for that, I guess.
Yeah, I got a list. This is why I was a little late. Sitting around the dinner table making up a list of
Is that what we want? Is this what we want or what we need?
or, well, stuff that we
Well-
could think of that we needed money for. Hannah's got to get paid back for the prizes that she bought for the new next poster contest. She's already bought the books. I couldn't
Do you
remember.
want to try to generate it again, since we were so gracious last year? I don't know if we put, that was an item on the agenda anyways,
Yeah.
to get started on the conservation poster.
No, I know
That went over good last year.
I know you guys said something about we're gonna have poster paper, we're gonna supply the poster paper. My daughter works for, William Arthur, and she can get what they call, it's almost like this, but a little bit thicker. But it comes usually stand aside, what you gotta put in a box. I didn't know if I could get a bunch of it, if you guys would be interested in that. It's vanilla. I'm just trying to save pennies, and if she'll, if she can get me some. I didn't know if you guys wanted standard
Well,
or not.
I don't think I'd leave that as that, because we've already got
Some
X
money.
amount toward it,
Okay.
minus the amount there. I know she's talked to Stephen Roy, and in theory, he's got a list. We do have the possibilities of I don't know, he's gonna get a ceremony going on the cemetery that's up by the tower or not, but there's a guy in there that did get on the Revolutionary War, but he already has a stone. But his father, I think, is probably in there too, and he doesn't, so. So, I'm not sure he's gonna get his father on the list or not, but he's trying.
And that's
We've
a
got
lot.
this Revolutionary War soldier that's not in town. He's not, they don't know where he's buried, but he was living in town the last of it. But, so there's a problem there.
Now, when the gentleman from Shapley came over, did he say that he could actually help us to locate it, or he was just gonna leave it up to the family at this time? The one that does Shapley's work, you know who I'm talking about?
We can discuss that some more.
Because he's really good at what he does. I'm not saying,
He's
you know,
proving it. He's
yeah,
proving it.
I know.
It's not just a matter of finding whether he's there, If the Veterans Association would accept it, he's there,
It's not even that. By the time I've done 2 letters down to Washington, no, actually Virginia, and one come back, that even though they're both related, they've come back in 2 different departments for 2 different reasons. and they don't take genealogy, and they don't take, what else they don't take? They don't take, DAR, and they don't take the other one, so I don't know how to get around that.
My thinking is because we haven't done it, and we've gotta get we gotta get Mr. Roy or somebody on it. So, I'd go for the regular amount that we've been doing for the cemeteries. I wouldn't go beyond that, but it's got to be spent.
Yeah,
We've just got to do it.
what have we been asking for? I don't remember.
I don't know if there's any other way to, you know. A good question to the select people might be, what is the maximum in a given year they'd like to have on that account?
Yeah, because they're not the only ones that
You
we
know,
have
'cause
to deal
this is
with.
just plain, it's egg on our face, you know, it just hasn't got done.
Because
You know,
is it,
there's
because
been
of
no cemetery stones fixed, it just needs to get done. I mean, the only
I thought he
work
was gonna get to it this fall.
the only work we've done is clean up the tree down in Farnham's, and that's two-thirds done.
Actually, no, we went to Brackett's and cleaned, you and I.
Yeah, but we didn't spend any money.
No, we couldn't,
haven't
they
spent any
fell
money
off the
yet.
side of the bank, and what do you want, miracles?
But I don't know what Hannah has for an account on the trees
on
that
the
we
various-
moved up there,
Right.
so. So maybe I'm speaking off the top of my head. But I'd go for that and say we're gonna spend the other. We're just gonna go for it, it's like a post haste. Flags?
Well,
Flags
that's a
is-
separate
is-
item anyway,
yeah,
but we were just putting down everything we could think of here.
Bill, flags is part of the town's responsibility anyway. It doesn't matter, as long as we can prove the veterans, or they've got a list of the veterans, it's up to them to make
Oh,
sure
yeah,
it's out
no,
there.
I mean, this is just like I said, we
alright.
just did this at dinner.
Yeah, I know, but that is the town's responsibility. I know, we went that round a few years ago.
Yeah, my initial thing on this is almost something we should try to raise. The same with the earth day.
Oh, well, you gotta pay
Yeah.
fees well, this
But-
was, Gavin was thinking like, oh, you weren't there for that Tom Gore was talking about how we should do something for Earth Day so that we can make people aware of the whole referendum thing of Tom's.
Okay.
So, I mean, I guess that
Just as an aside, that's Mr. Gore's in on that? He believes-
yes.
Okay.
And I don't know whether that, whereas, I mean, it costs money I think, unless they can decide we're a non-profit, to have a booth at the farmer's market. Three Rivers did it, other non-profit organizations have done things where they sit there on a Saturday and say, give us money.
So here's the scope. We haven't spent the money that we should have been spending on cemeteries, but we do have some work that needs to get done. The question is whether we should ask the town for the next allotment for it anyways. Now, we know there's one up on the top of the hill that Hannah's had some tree work done on.
The problem is, if we don't ask for it, it's not a whole heck of a lot. If we don't ask for it, we're not gonna have enough to do any work anyway. This is the problem. We've
So-
only got 200, to my knowledge, we've only got 200 in the conservation account at this point. That's my understanding. That's why, when I was talking to Michelle last fall, we were gonna turn around and try to, get back some of the money that they turned over the last year I was actually chair.
So we want to get a declarative statement of what's in that account.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Because they're only rolling over, and I thought I caught it in time to roll over what was going on in my world, but they're telling me no, and I don't agree with it, but they're telling me no. So you might want to look
Is that
again.
money earmarked for specific work, or
Not at this
is
point.
that just,
No, I know Hannah's has had some work done on one cemetery. I don't know where that is coming out of. But, what Bill is asking about is the next
Next
year's
level.
allotment for some more. As far as our own little project, I know we've got that broken stone on the Acton Corners Cemetery.
We've got a few that need to be looked at.
The Civil War that we don't even, we know it's a stone, but there's nothing there to indicate that it is.
That's it.
So,
Because the problem we get is that if we say no, my fear is that if we say no, then we intend to use it, My problem is if we say no, that goes whatever project we want to do the following year. I mean, it's not, right now, like I said, I don't think we got a lot at this point, but I'm more scared that if we don't get, trying to get a kitty, I guess, we can't afford to have Steve and Roy work on some of the projects that should be done.
How much money is available?
I believe that last time I checked, I want to say it was $200 was available for the conservation. Because I thought I had saved the money when I was chair a couple, 3 years ago, and they're telling me, no, I didn't, so I don't know.
Over the years, the town has averaged pretty close to $600 a year
Right.
against cemetery work.
Right.
And then, of course, the flags is on top of that. And
Right.
we've added a few flags in the last 4 or 5 years.
We
So,
have the funds, we should find something to use them for.
Right.
that's what we're
Absolutely.
saying.
That's my point. You know, it's egg on our face because we haven't done it.
The
But
thing
we-
is
we
that
did get started, you know, the last of the.
a lot of the
last
work,
fall, Roy was up looking,
Yeah.
and at least he's back in the ballpark.
Oh, because a lot of the work that needs to be done to the veterans stones, or even veteran cemeteries in general, is a lot of work.
Oh, yeah,
We just don't have the resources at times to.
the
to
one
get
up
that.
in North Acton by, what's his name? You and Hannah are out there. The guy with the farm in North Acton.
You mean,
Garish or Langley?
Langley's?
Langley's.
Okay.
By Langley's, there's a cemetery between him and the next house, and one of the
Yes.
walls is falling down on that.
Because Hannah and I did some work up there not that long ago. We actually dug out some stuff and cut back some raspberry from some of the bushes.
Mhm.
And I know that,
Not the one way out back, but the one by the road, one of the walls fell down.
and his stone's cracked. I know who you're talking about, yes. Yeah. Because I was gonna say, also next, across the street from Frank, he's been working on that one too, as you had time to clean that one out. So, I mean, we're trying, it's just a matter of resources.
No, but we don't know if there's a vet in that.
No, but it's still a cemetery, needs to be watched over.
That's not our prerogative, but.
Well, actually, under state
I'm not saying it
under
isn't.
state
I'm not saying it
bylaws, it
isn't.
is.
Well, no, I don't know. The town, it's town money, so.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Their bill is against veterans, not against private cemeteries.
But that's changing too, a lot of that's changing. Because of where they had all those problems with, mishandlation of,
So, do we wanna
Wes, I have a question.
go for it?
I believe there's about, 5 cemeteries for which the town has a fund, for maintaining them. And back when I was selectman, we took it on, I was always told that, when the selectman had the responsibility of making sure those were cleaned up
Uh-huh.
for Memorial Day, and then there was money available in the funds.
at this point, because the trusts aren't earning any money, I know there's only about $223.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
They're not
We
earning
don't
any
use
money.
the
And
interest.
unfortunately,
But,
they don't have it.
I used to do it myself,
Mhm.
and then there's other people who would turn around and volunteer and whatnot, but all of a sudden,
It's hard.
is anybody, do you guys get involved in those 5, or?
To my knowledge, Robin gets hired for the town, and then he does whatever the town tells him to. And those 5 are supposed to be included because they own the trust fund.
It would be nice if we could get a group of citizens together that is really interested in cemeteries. You know, it would be nice if we could get proactive on this, and
Yeah.
because there's a lot of it out there that could be done and needs to be done, and
Well, this is the other thing that I wanted to try to find out from you guys. The, part of the thing that I told you, we're working on at the Acton Shapley Historical Society is, one of the projects is the cemeteries. Now, they've had somebody over in Shapley that has gone out and turned around and identified it and GPSed every cemetery in Shapley. So then all of a sudden, they'd like to do something, but all of a sudden, then the question comes up, well, where are we on Acton? I don't know. I got a list of the cemeteries, but I know you guys started a few years ago
We've
doing
actually,
things, but I don't know how far you've gone.
we've
or-
got a list. I don't know whether it's a complete list, but we have a
We haven't
list.
got the GPS positions for
No.
them. If we can find somebody that's got the technology that's willing to go with us, we
So-
certainly
so
would
I say,
be willing
I
to
know.
take 2 weekends and do it,
Yeah.
you know?
My feeling is, being on the Acton Chaplain Historicals, I seem to be, well, I was the only Acton person there. And, they're well represented by people from Shapley, but, so then, there's another gentleman, he lives down on 7th Street. But anyway, but he's not an, never got into that much into the historical part or even that familiar with Acton. He's kind of an out-of-towner that lived on the
Well,
lake. But, so, I don't know, myself, I would like to, even if I have to act as a go-between or whatnot, try to get a better working relationship between you guys and the Acton Chaplain Historical. Some of the things, they may have money to do some of these things that you don't have money on, and maybe, by working together, maybe we can, get some of these things done that have just been kind of going on for lack of funding and whatnot. So, so I'm hoping to create a little interest in you guys and, see, the Acton Chaplain Historic doesn't want to more or less come charging in and taking over and, do things we say their way or whatnot. There's ideas, but all of a sudden, my feeling is, I know you guys have got.
I could turn
a lot of stuff
I
and
could
everything.
turn the tables on that and say if Mr. Rivard hadn't did what he did for Shapley, the Historical Society would still not have Shapley.
Oh, no, I
Okay.
I know that.
I'm not taking a defensive stand. I'm just saying, I'm clapping for Mr. Rivard's
Oh, yeah.
work.
Oh, yeah, he does really well.
But now, maybe we can capitalize on it and turn around
Absolutely.
and get some pressure
Absolutely.
and whatever, and if all of a sudden,
Do they have a committee that's
All it is Mr. Reba.
responsible for the cemeteries?
All it
No,
is
it's
Mr.
just
Reba.
him, and he likes it
Just
that
him.
way.
Just him.
Just him.
He gets about, what, $2,500 a year?
I don't know what he gets, doesn't really matter.
But I'm just saying, he gets that, they approve it, they help him out, they make sure
I think
he
it was
gets.
actually quite a bit more than that.
It might be more, but I'm just saying, I know it's up there,
I
and they,
I think if
they
we
let him have
could have
mowing
had
and
the
all that
GPS
stuff.
device with somebody
Where-
to help us with it, it would have been done by now.
well,
But we didn't,
yeah,
we
but
didn't
it's-
have that
that's
because
something-
it's
if
more
you're still
technology
interested,
than we've got.
then I can turn around and see
You
what
know,
we can
so
do to,
I know we keep hearing rumors that somebody is willing to help us with it.
Oh, I know, it's all
But
in
the names never come in and they don't knock us on the
Seems
door.
like
I mean,
every
if-
year this time of year, this is what
I
happens.
mean, maybe we should put an ad out in the paper that says we're gonna put flags on if anybody who really likes GPS wants to come along with us and wants to help us out and donate.
Well, this
you
is
know.
what I was gonna get to later on
That
in my
would be good,
conversation.
you know, maybe that's one way. No, maybe I just did, but,
I kind of
No.
been, I've kind of been approached by the school, and they're doing historical stuff, especially, I know, especially here. They're interested in, especially my daughter's, my daughter's group.
Uh-huh.
The historical person that does, the teacher down there, Mr. Putnam, is doing on history, the state of Maine, and Acton is one of his primary goals, is do most of his work on Acton, obviously, because we did a lot, we do a lot. And I told him about Hannah and us going out. Hannah is a 4-H person, and us as a conservation group going out, to do what we have to do as far as putting out flags. If somebody was truly interested in helping, and the kids getting to know, to either A, join Hannah's group, and see what she's doing it, or B, keep a check with us, and
Well-
come out and see what it's all about.
I mean, one of the things we have to do is verify data that we get on stones. And, you know, there are some things we might put flags on that shouldn't have flags on. Hence, little things like the Adjutant General's report. No, it's only 1,500 pages, you can check through that. Why don't you spare moments? That's for 1
Now,
year.
where did you borrow this from?
No, that's mine,
Or is it
but that's
yours?
beside the point. What I'm saying is to be accurate with the data. And do we do it for everybody, or do we just do it for the vets? You know, as a committee, it would be, we do it for the vets, but it would be
Well, yeah,
nice if,
But
we can start with the vet
you know,
and,
We're also
and
historical,
then turn
so
around and
now,
at least get that done, and all of a
That's-
sudden,
that's why I
you know,
say
we
we
get
need-
the ball rolling, and all of a sudden, maybe we can continue on.
I mean, what Acton has done is it's put flags on with the assumption and the understanding that the flags are rightfully put. We have found some more veterans, we've found some more cemeteries, we've found some more, so we keep adding to it. But we can't locate them. So this whole issue of locating things and being able to put it on a map raises a lot of questions as to what goes on a map and who's to do it, you know. And
But
that raises the question whether it belongs to this committee or it belongs to the Acton Historical Society as to locations on a map and how that map is distributed and how it's used. But I obviously am a lover of history. I see the value of it. But I also understand that these are private cemeteries in a lot of cases. They belong to private families. There's other people's rights that are involved with them. I mean, if somebody asked me, do I want my house on a Google site? I'm not sure. Do you want your house on a Google site? Is it historical?
my house ain't historical, but hey, if you more about it.
My sheep are on Google.
My grandparents is different, but
Do they smile for candid camera?
I don't, you know, if somebody showed me the picture, I could count the sheep, but I couldn't tell you which one was which.
I mean, biggest thing is we know it's stuff that has to be done, but when we get busy on that, there's always something else that has to be done. Then there's something else that has to be done. Then there's something else that has to be done. So we just kind of have to stick to one, get our guns done, and finish it. Or two, because we've talked before about subdividing ourselves out and doing the best to our abilities to what we have.
Well, that's why I wanted to stay with this for half a minute. Poster contest. Do you, anybody want to be on a committee for that? It's coming up quick.
I can try to help out. I mean, you guys you guys can tell me how you
What's
guys
coming
did
up
it.
quick?
Poster.
We did a poster contest last year in the school. It was for any student, and it was just we gave them a subject to work on, and they had to draw a picture, and they got prizes on it, and it worked. You know, it got a lot of kids involved, and hopefully we get more this year. I know there's a conservation committee in Wells or York that does this and has had good luck with it, and it's just an activity.
And I saw where they had really good results, so. I mean, you guys have to tell me how you guys did it last year, and
I'm just
how
saying,
it
you know,
went.
we don't have to discuss it at every meeting, but, you know, we've got guidelines, got the guidelines we used last year. Where, you know, we had a few little wrinkles about poster sizes.
Well, that's kind of why I asked.
Whether or
Yeah,
not
so
we
if
should supply the paper at
If
the
we
school.
supply the paper, that's not a problem.
But,
No, that's kind of, like I said, that's why I asked about it, because now, what month did you guys have that, March or April?
I think we're trying to do it a little bit earlier than we did last year, this year.
now, we do have a couple of Revolutionary War veterans that need to have some sort of markers done on them, and that's maybe coming out of the cash that you're gonna ask for. And that's gonna take some effort, you know, if we do one's in a very hard, you know, to make it a public site, it's gonna take a little bit of work. The one up on top of the hill might not be too bad, but.
Yeah, I don't think that would bother anybody, would it?
But
The other thing,
Watson's might be a
herds,
little different.
herds too,
I
there's
have
something
no
different.
idea on that.
That's what I'm saying, that's a little different.
There's no proof on it.
No proof on some of
Where's
them.
the other one that would be a problem?
Watson's, up
Yeah.
behind Hens.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, we're gonna have to speak.
It's there, it's a matter of, his wife's there. But there's a lot, that's what I'm saying, there's so much.
There's a lot to go into that.
Yes, there's so,
You
so
just
much
can't
that should
do
be
it.
doing it,
So
yeah.
when would be a good time to do it? If we could get Roy to do it, when would be a good time to have him?
A lot of it's to make sure we have the funds. Make sure we have the funds to support him, because he's the one that, he's gonna be paid. He's gonna wanna be paid. Well, I wanna be paid, you don't wanna be paid,
Okay.
And then I'm sure once we've made that conclusion, I'd like to see something right around Memorial shortly thereafter, shortly the day before, shortly thereafter. Just because, but I don't know how fast we can do this. A lot of
Well,
it
we
depends
really-
on- Might have to be fall or summer.
We don't have a cemetery committee, subcommittee.
No, that's one of the things we're supposed to be working on. As I said, we have so much we're supposed to be working on that,
Well, I guess you're the cemetery subcommittee, just tell who
whoa,
you
whoa,
want.
whoa. I have another person who knows a lot more about this, which is two people on this other board, which is Mr. Wesley and Miss Hannah.
Yeah, but that's fine. You and Hannah want to do that, it'd be fine with me,
Yeah, I
Probably
see you
fine with
passed the
you.
buck again.
No, it just,
You have to ask Hannah. I can't speak for her. You would have to ask and see what she wants to do, if she wants to do that. That's not my territory. It's no more than I can speak for anybody else. I don't know.
no.
Anyway, I'm willing to volunteer to help. If you
I mean, I would,
want to try to do
wouldn't
something
mind it.
with the cemetery
Okay,
and whatnot, so as I say,
Okay, have you been to any of those? Reebok's had 3 or 4 in the last 5 or 6 years of Revolutionary War vets. Have you ever been to one of those ceremonies? It's really quite good.
yeah.
He gets the local land vets together, they have a military salute, a gun salute. They have usually somebody who's descended from the veterans.
Yep.
They have a chaplain. Somebody addresses it,
Are we
There's
all-
usually printed material for it.
How far
And
descended?
it's really nice, it's a nice affair, and personally, I think if there's a veteran on this group, and I'm not
Hannah.
one, so
Hannah is. Hannah is.
That's my natural inclination, by default.
That I can tell you he is.
But,
I guess I'm a veteran too.
You are? That's very,
Served overseas.
well, there you go. We live and learn.
I spent 2.5 years in Hawaii.
Oh, yeah.
doesn't matter, you're still a veteran.
Before it was a state?
It was overseas.
It's true.
No, it's really nice. It's a nice thing to do, and we've got Watson's grave, which is up across from you, up in behind Bobby's.
And Roberts.
And it's a very poorly looking thing.
Hidden.
It's a little tiny break in the wall that, at most 3 people are in.
If you didn't know it was
And
there, you wouldn't know.
He's a bona fide Civil War vet. He's an interesting character if you want to get into the history of the man. He had I believe he had the house up in behind Griswold's in Milton Mills. He had interest in the dam. He had interest in the mills.
Yes, he did.
He's an interesting character, and he lived in Acton, and he moved away, and he came back, and he's
Got
buried up in
siblings.
behind there on what used to be the Watson farm. So that would be one to be nice, but I thought maybe if there was something that was a little less rustic, we might break our teeth on it. We'd be better off to do that
I'm
first.
just trying to think.
But
What about Langley's? Jonathan Langley.
have you seen records on him?
They're
I
all
don't-
over the place.
Okay.
They're all over the place. But I'm just saying, I'm, that's, 'cause I was thinking his might be a little bit less secure. I think the family takes care of out there. I think.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is there's gotta be a process in place to do this. We've gotta,
I agree,
dot-
110%.
Dot our Ts and cross our Ts and dot our Is in order to do that. I mean, you want, but
And we gotta basically decide what we can afford, and how many we actually can do either per year.
I don't think that's an
Per month.
expensive item. I don't think there's
A lot of it depends upon if the
Once you do the
stone's
stone,
broken, if
yeah.
Steven can put it back together, or if it's something that's gonna be refudged, or, and the problem is, I'm not a mason.
I mean, since I got Frank interested in this book over there,
I know, it's pretty cool.
I was quickly
Still
looking through those just by acting. And if you go on to page 1172, you'll see, you'll see some that,
1173?
there's nobody, there's 4 or 5 that served that aren't buried in town that I know of.
Who did
You
the
know, but they
GPS?
lived in Acton, they
I'm not
were
sure.
residents of Acton when they served.
Because that's another thing I'd like to keep an eye on, because we have several that aren't buried here in town, but they lived here all their lives in town, but they're buried in someplace else. Just keep an eye on it. I'm not saying we have to officially do anything, just keep an eye on it. Because even the Mrs. West that lived down below us, she actually is buried in Salmon Falls, Salmonville, excuse me. And she was a veteran. She was a nurse.
But it's like there's 2 up off, at the end of the H Road, going to the right. There's a cemetery over in back there that's got 3 Avery brothers. And I think we put flags on 2, maybe we put
Is
flags
that-
on
You gotta
3.
walk way in.
That
Well,
ones,
So that listing there has them and the companies they served in, and when little tidbits like when they were promoted in rank or demoted in rank, once in a while it happens. To be honest, there was somebody from, well, we shouldn't say that. There was people are missing, people desert, people do all sorts of things. I mean, it was a tough time.
you'll be getting shot at, and you'll be having a tough time too.
Most of the other towns I've noticed raise a heck of a lot more money to support cemeteries than the town of Acton does,
It isn't that we haven't tried, trust me.
Yeah, but I think,
Well,
you run into a problem before where people just didn't understand what,
That's what I'm saying, it's not like we haven't tried,
so,
it's just,
you guys just
can you
really
check to
took it
see if
through
he's
the
over there?
nose. But you look at some of these
I'm
other
not sure
towns,
he is, but
how you supposed to say?
PDN.
I've reviewed the statutes too, and,
Did you say
responsibility is
1173?
there.
72, I'm
That's
sorry.
Always been
Yeah.
a long,
What's his first name?
try to get that.
Winthrop?
But it's like that.
You know what, being the old section,
Probably
what
gonna murder me on
are we
the
looking for?
Well, I know a lot about the
I think
man,
it's $75,000 a year
but,
on wells to
he
put
was
away
one
and
that
buy land
came
and
in.
Oh, yeah.
if something comes
so
up.
I don't know, he lived in town quite a while.
And what do we get? We get grief.
His
Is
wife
this,
lived there afterwards, so I think he died in town.
Old Cameron,
Yeah, there's a bunch of them in there.
You know, that was gonna be on the list. I was
deserted
like,
in
"Are you kidding me?
July
I
of
think you're
Yeah,
gonna-
that's the kind of stuff you come across. But you read down through and you see like there's,
there's another Acton there,
Yeah.
Hawkins.
these are names I don't know any of. There's a McGilly from Acton, and, so there was 5 names on that one page that
Oh, I know.
aren't in the list.
The problem
promoted
is
to a
like
sergeant.
we just said, they might have been here, but they could have gone, they could have passed away in Shapley, they could have passed away in Wells.
But now
they passed away in other
There's,
places.
there's a Charles W. and Hiram Goodwin, they're brothers.
Now Street Bridge Committee, what's,
Oh, I was supposed to.
Now, Rufus Horn, we do
We
him,
know-
we
he's
know
there,
where he
but
is.
Rufus Chapman.
Whether it would be.
No,
Leslie or-
I've tried to get into
just
that
wrote it
Chapman
on.
Cemetery, and I've been denied the right to do it
Yeah,
on a couple occasions. It's up off 109, the individuals
I don't
say,
think
we won't let anybody in our cemetery. Well, it's a,
Obviously, we have
so,
to have some sort of liaison.
pay attention to my writing,
but
because it'll get you in
no.
trouble.
no, well, it's
but you've got
Road
Ross's
Committee
book, right?
working with that, but they
You
don't.
wanna see if
they won't
Chapman's
back
in
out
there.
of it.
Actually, I have a copy of
So it
it,
mentioned
and it has frost.
The last.
So do you want to see if Chapman's in there
And
from
then the Conservation Committee,
How you spell it,
Be involved.
C-H-A-M?
CHAMP? C-H-A-P in
Like
the end,
three
Chapman.
people from the road committee that we're gonna, and then
CH,
it would be three people, somebody from the planning board,
AP,
somebody from this,
Chap,
somebody from this.
man.
I don't know. I mean, I get this stuff out piecemeal, so I don't,
and what's the first name?
Rufus.
I mean, maybe I'll know
No,
more by
it's
the
just that
time
you
I've read
mentioned
it.
that there's a cemetery down off the Hebo High Bow, and I'm not sure it's on the, it's right off the road.
There's a meeting,
And Bob Rand was talking about it. I'm not sure it's in Lebanon or in
meeting
Acton,
about
pretty close to the
Yeah.
line.
It's just like
He's in there.
we just still have, we have another one out
I,
there.
you know, I didn't know he was a dad.
have you heard anything about that one?
I know he's in there.
All I've done is
Well, that's
communicate
what I'm
with the
saying, there's so much
person on
that we
the
don't know.
John Nason,
statesman.
he was transferred to the Navy. I don't, you know, I don't know if
Isn't
there's
he-
a John
he's not-
Nason up in there or not.
He's not in any of the Nason cemeteries?
I don't know. Now, Thomas Drew was born in my house, and he was buried in Acton, but they picked him up and moved him to Milton Mills.
That's what I was
But he
wondering.
was a vet, but he's buried down in the Mills.
That's just like the one across the street from
So-
me. That's another one that I found, and I gave you guys paperwork on.
Who?
Bracket across the street from me.
Yeah, you know,
And I gave him, it's a captain, we believe there's a captain in there.
no,
His
we
wife's
got a
in there.
database on this stuff. We've
That
got
one diagonally
names. It's
across the
just,
street from where I
it
live.
just takes time to check it. I mean,
And
you
it's
can't
like-
get this all down on while you're doing flags. So, you know, somebody's gotta go out and with a clear head and say, I'm gonna do this cemetery this morning.
But we did,
And-
we
and
took photographs and
we-
everything once.
We did take a lot of photographs of a lot of them. But it's still sometimes hard to correlate who's got the right date, the record or the stone. Usually you say the record's wrong and the stone's right,
Yeah,
but, you know, so there's a lot to it.
You know, the other thing I can try too, see, I know it's hard, but sometimes, Daughters of Revolution or Revolutionary War will help with their records. They're pretty good. I know that helped me find a lot of different things.
Do they have that book down at, in Springville at the?
I think they do.
What,
I think they've got
this one?
I think they've got
I
the
don't know.
Adjutant General's reports.
I know I wrote down what it was.
I mean, they're not hard to come by.
That's only for, what, 2 years?
Yeah,
Yeah,
87,
it's 2
and
years.
that's the
Volume
supplemental
two.
roles and the other.
And sometimes you're lucky enough to find them on the net, but not very sometimes.
Yeah, they have a lot of stuff up in their genealogy room and.
It's a nice room. I've spent a lot of time up there.
You want to go over to Wooded Company in Alfred, you probably can get the full series.
Really.
You're going to pay some money for it. But you
Where?
can get Wood's over in Alfred.
That bookstore next to the restaurant in Alfred.
Right.
Right on the central
Probably
square
got the
there.
full series. They're,
Really?
you know, they're not uncommon, it's just that they're, my grandmother picked that one up because of a relative in it.
Where isn't there a relative?
I'm sure.
I want to know where there isn't one.
Uh,
No, I tried.
But there was a Meikle, and there's a little kid that's buried in the cemetery off Blueberry Hill Lane. And he was I'm not sure he was the minister or not, but there was a Meikle that was a veteran that served with another guy that's buried in there that was a veteran that we put a flag on for the first time last year. So we keep finding them. It's just that isn't what you people want. You people want the database of where it is. Now, I can put a dot on a map, and if I'm on somebody else's property, they get offended when somebody says, what are you looking for? Coming down Farnham's Hill, there's a cemetery close to what used to be Jesse Mattress's property.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked from the side of the road up into the cemetery, and I still offended somebody. You know, so it's, you know,
Of course, I never figure out why people get so upset. I mean.
now that's
Well, it's
whoever is in
strange.
there, it's a very old name in Acton, but the only it's a broken stone with one J on it, and that's as close as we can get to it. There's no other known stones in there, but doesn't mean you can't find them.
thing.
I'll whet your interest.
No, but one of the things is to work on the easy things, the things that we know, or you already know, okay? And
That's an
then-
old town map.
Then get that part down, and then turn around and, work on these others.
And that's some of the sites that are on the map. But now, without GPS, all it is a dot on the map. You know, we know where they are, we can put flags on them every year. But how do you make that official without a GPS?
The only thing we were trying to do last time was match up the numbers to the map, and we got really tough.
They got warm.
Because it seemed like we know where and did it, and they changed the setup again. Because the only reason I like them to know in town is because that way we don't have the problem we had over there on Fox's Ridge, where that cemetery was there, stone is there, but where it is, who knows?
Moses Paul is not
No,
a bet.
but it's the
But-
idea, we're part of the historical too, we still gotta
Yeah.
maintain the historical part of it, and there was a cemetery there. And it's not, whose fault it is, I don't know. It's just, all of a sudden, there isn't one, but the stone's there, what do you do? Knowing there was. I don't know. Just make people more aware
What
of
I
it,
was,
of the
what I was
situation.
trying to do was to, find the little bits of where they served and
Oh, I
what,
know.
if they're in there and they're in a regiment, then that goes along in the file, and we know that
Because
we've
some of these
got
guys
the
could
right
have,
person. And-
been in it.
And,
I mean, Shepherd.
just running through that in a couple hours last night, I came across 25, 6 names
Oh, I
or
wouldn't
something like
surprise me.
that from Acton that I knew that we had done. And the references that I had weren't necessarily that book.
Yeah.
They were the 2 years before.
Yeah.
You know,
Others.
they were the 62, 63. One of the things I've got, which is quite interesting, is a list of, that the town put together of eligible victims, but they use terminologies, and this is at the time, 1864, the terminology has not been defined. I don't know what they mean by
And
that category.
And several years ago, I
And
know.
I've asked a couple of vets or Civil War people, and they haven't got it. So maybe I'm going to have to find some historical expert that has an idea of what they mean by this. Because, the categories they must have been using must be more than just Acton. I would think the terminology would apply to other towns in Maine.
Because I know several years ago, they got
And
Richard
probably
Nance to help out.
Massachusetts.
I don't have that here, but,
I
But it's
think you're
interesting.
talking Civil War, right?
now you see there's a wide range of sites here.
Your committee. I see here, just out of curiosity, under Saw, Grist, and Fulling Mills, you got Brackett's Mill.
Oh, you're going to scratch me on that. I think that's just a reference.
Oh, no, I was wondering.
I've got to go back and find that.
Is
I've
it-
got to go find that.
Yeah, but is that the one on my?
It might be.
Because whether you know or not, it's the old dam,
Right,
and you still see the big old part of the cast, big wheel,
okay.
and the shaft and everything is still there just below the dam
Uh-huh.
behind my house.
Right.
And I still own the mill rights. And when I bought
That doesn't surprise me.
Well,
I'm not surprised by that, yeah.
Well, no, but as I say, Ethelyn Walker did not want to give me the mill rights.
Uh-huh.
She really, finally she yielded and said, well, okay.
Yeah.
But, in her deeds,
Well,
the mill rights have been passed
A
down.
lot of that stuff
By
is,
deed and everything.
a lot of that stuff you find out by studying those rights, when you come across them and chasing them back, and that gives you an indication of where the original mill was, because quite often the rights will go through 3 or 4 deeds.
But I didn't know whether that was the same one.
It might very well be, yeah.
But,
There's Hubbard's Mill, and I haven't found that. I don't know where that one is. And it's somewhere off Goose Pond Road, and I don't know why the Hubbards are up in that way.
Really?
It's somewhere up in that direction was a Hubbard's Mill.
That's unusual.
Well, then you'd have to figure out where the water was rather than where it is now, right?
Possibly.
Maybe. They could have deferred it somewhere along the line.
Because isn't that one of those diverted kind of jobs up there somewhere?
Like they say, the old saying is, we have to take the bull by the horns, decide where we want to start. And
But
go
what
from
he's
Don't-
got there
don't-
is, I was trying to, I made a list a couple of years ago where we did it. We
I saw
did
that, yeah.
historical structures, and I was, one of the things I'd like to get some input on is, how do you grow them? You consider a cellar hole, an old foundation, you want to group those separate.
I know what you're
We do
saying.
have factory sites, like down off French Street. On the other side of the river, there's mill sites. There was an old mill associated with the silver mine. It probably was taken over by the silver mines, and there's nothing left of that mill site. But, there's, old bridges right off the end of the Orchard Road, right at the end of it, is that stone arch. That's a perfectly good archaeological site. It's a historical thing.
Yeah.
No, I'll have to go check. I've only ever gone down that on a toboggan.
There used to be a bridge across at the end of the Flat Ground Road. And-
Yes,
and-
boopy boopy years ago.
And, what's the proper name for that? Now, I've got a whole bunch of little green marks because, around Great East, because as said before, a lot of, people on the south end of town don't realize how much history there is up around those camps. But that camp history is important to the town. And before there was all the subdivisions, there used to be some pretty interesting shacks up there, that were just that. They were places that people of note came to. Dave Garraway used to come up to Great East. Teddy Roosevelt came to Great East. Roy Berry Wills, Roy Berry Wills, the American Cape, the guy that did so much to promote the Cape as an architectural form. His son, they had a camp on Great East. Goodrich had
Really?
a camp on Great East.
Well, that's what I said, your mind is
So,
so.
Well, because, Charlie Parsons Point, Washburn used to teach at Lebanon Academy.
Yep.
Louise Hahn's husband went to Lebanon Academy. Dr. Ann went to Lebanon Academy. Harold Washburn had a camp. Those boys visited the camp in Great East. So it was, we talk about the Horn twins. The land on both sides of their dividing line became different kinds of camps. There's a different kind of history to it. So that's interesting. But as a conservation committee, I'm much more interested in what happened to the shape of the lake when they raised the dam. That's more intriguing to me
Yeah,
than the camp history. But
it's also part of it.
But in terms of land use and conservation going forward, it's nice to know how that lake was developed and how was Melson Lake developed. And what is the impact of that development down the line in terms of what the planning board is doing, So it all ties together. But, no, there's a lot there,
So what are the sketches for? I picked them up, it was nice, I dropped them, I picked them up, now where are they?
Houses?
Lebanon did that 25
Oh,
years
yeah.
ago. They made a very nice pictorial map. And I thought that's, that was a good thing. They could
Marking.
really downsize these sketches.
Those
and
cemeteries,
then they put it
what
in.
are they? I don't
Who's
know.
who, by what?
These are green
Oh.
areas for agriculture.
Oh, okay.
He's got all kinds of
Oh,
stuff.
okay, I didn't see that up there.
So who did the sketching, you?
There's know, like a red dot would be one of the
That's-
schoolhouses.
Gee, you're good, see?
And that's Wes's. Not
That,
Wes's,
that's Miller's.
yeah.
I didn't see
Didn't
that, I
realize
didn't
that
see
it was
that.
a key, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't bother to number them. I'm going to, but it's just like, Frog Hill is a colloquial name for, is it Frog Hill? Frog School? Frog Hill?
Oh, Frog Pond School.
Frog Pond School.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't tell you which number that is. Is that,
Where is that located?
I'm not sure which number the schoolhouse it is.
Really? I know it was the first time I've heard of it, so that's what I was wondering.
No, it's just like, when did Riverside become a school? The other,
Well-
the district school was, I believe that district included the one going into the entrance of U, the schoolhouse on the hill. I think that was all 6.
Which one is the Hopper Road?
The weedy one.
The one that looks like a little bumps going the road.
This is the Hopper Road, yeah. It's flat ground.
The old Hopper Road,
Went up like that.
I was gonna say, there's a couple of different ways that
There's a
would.
nice, interesting archaeological, it's actually where they kept the horses. So there's a whole bunch of pins down here off the Stagecoach Road extended.
right?
Those are kinds of things that are intriguing.
Weren't there any dwellings on the old Hopper Road?
There was the Josiah Withams down in here. Is it Josiah Witham? I know.
I've seen a photograph, but that burned right.
Yeah, it did, but there was Withams down in there. And Sanborn Places, Bartlett's Places.
There's no cemeteries out there?
Bartlett's Place has got a Revolutionary War soldier that's never been awarded as a Revolutionary War soldier. I insisted on us putting a marker on him, and he's got a mark, but he was not accounted as a Revolutionary War soldier. No, it's hand scratching because it said what somebody did, town of Lebanon's bicentennial back in 1974, was they took town map and put little tiny pictographs on it, and it really caught on, and everybody liked it. And they sold 2 versions of it. They sold the large one, and they sold the 14 by 18 or something like that, and they sold the wall size one. And it was a good thing for something to do.
Was the little one the one that folded into a pamphlet or whatever? Because I know there was a pamphlet too, I've got one somewhere.
So how did you manage to get a
One of
map
the
that big?
ideas I presented to the historical
I think he
society.
blew it up from one of the old ones.
Because
What you got here?
technically, there was supposed to be a map that size floating around here that they marked for
Software
us when
program.
I was
We can use the Google
chair.
Maps.
I know.
That we were supposed to end up
And-
with.
But
and they
the
took it
problem
down.
is, you want
And
to
I
make
have
sure
no
that
idea,
it's
it's got
on
my name in the bottom of
your
it.
lot,
Yeah.
not
Oh,
your
it's
neighbor's.
supposed to come
And
to this
that's the
group. I
problem,
haven't
is that
seen
you can put it on a
Well,
map. but
somebody
you know,
asked me about it, and I said, it didn't make it.
As I said, it would be nice if it could be just nice and easy. But, as far as this committee is concerned, we've got to run that by the selectmen in terms of what we can do with this.
Yeah.
It's fine to promote history, but it's really beyond, I'm not sure
Yeah,
it's
but you're
our
never,
function.
you're never gonna stop. People have to use a little common sense, okay? The fact that
Okay.
you turn around and say, yeah, there's a,
All
historical
right, all right.
cemetery there.
So you
or
come down
or a
here.
cellar hole there and everything. That doesn't give them the right,
I
just
know,
because it's
I know.
identified
So you
where
come
it
down
is.
here and you start going through the
It's like
15
silver
silver
mines.
silver
It's just like the
mines
silver
along
mines.
this vein.
We've discussed it, we're not going
But
to
then you come down into
identify.
Lebanon, another half
Because
mile.
we
Got the
don't,
road closed
And I
off.
tell you, it
yeah,
would
but
scare the
it's
shit
not
out of
only that,
most
there's
people
several
what
other
that thing
places,
is.
several other
You come
places you
across
can
this
get
hole in the
to
ground that's
them.
18 feet square,
Yeah,
and the
and
water's
I
down
know
40
where
feet,
they are.
and you
Oh,
know
West
the
knows
hole's
where they
another
are.
100 feet beyond
We're
that.
not gonna disclose them
And
only because they're
That's,
dangerous.
that's scary.
And we're
Yeah,
more
that's scary.
afraid,
And there's no fence around it.
curiosity.
It's pure
Owns that
woods.
land now.
In the dry season, it's pure wood.
No, Robert owns some of
It
it.
gives you the
But
willage,
then I understand
you know,
somebody else
and-
owns some
and,
of it from
you know,
Massachusetts,
So I know
so,
they've closed off the road
But-
that goes in off the Garden Road,
yeah.
and when they went into the old,
It's,
But some of them aren't even out that far. Some of them are closer than what you think.
I mean, there's 2 or 3 aspects to
I bet
it.
the most-
One is,
And we've
whose house
decided
am I
not
looking
to
at?
disclose
why am
that
I
because
interested
of
in it? You know,
dangerous.
Well, yeah, but I'm not sure.
It's
You never turn around
unfortunate
and put-
because
say
curiosity
all
kills
that
the
stuff.
cat.
It's just too much.
No,
So the idea is to
Okay,
turn
it's
around.
part of
and
history,
pick
it's
out
part
the
of our,
pertinent
you know,
ones, You know?
what they did. But we're more afraid of somebody's,
General consensus
Getting
of what the
hurt and-
pertinent ones.
you know, where do you go
It
from
was
there?
just an idea that it would be something
what
that
few of us
people
do
would be
know-
interested in.
I don't
Did
think
Lorraine have
any of the old ones there,
Huh?
Did Lorraine have any input?
anybody's
She
gonna
hasn't
get.
provided it yet.
No, well, some of them did get
Just-
filled
just a
in,
question.
some of them were told to fill in,
Oh.
but some of them,
The
But
only-
obviously,
The only ones
if you're
that
really interested in the town
I
history,
can think of that
you could
weren't
take a
filled
subject
in are
like
on the
that
other
easily,
end.
and you
that's a
could
possibility.
easily give a talk on, you know.
I know they weren't, when I went
Just the
through
mills
last, they
back,
weren't all done,
And you
so
could easily give a talk.
it's been a while.
Well,
I think there's a mill here. I think there's a
Things
mill.
have happened.
I know there's a mill down here. I know there's the mills on this. I know there's a mill right here.
This would be interesting.
I know that
My
there's
luck,
another
I'm
mill
never
up in
gonna
here
find a
from
book
way
like this.
I
I'll
know
have
that
to
there was a
beat
mill.
Westfield with
There was a mill
borrow
here. In
it.
fact, there was 3 mills here, you know. I know there was a mill
Either
here.
that or
It was a
see if
small
Google has it.
corn grinding mill, but it was a corn grinding mill. I know that there was one here. I know that there was 3 in Salmon Falls right here. I know there was one here. You know, that they're all
But a
mills.
few in Shapley that
You know,
are in this
how
book,
many, is
which,
there foundation stones? If
That's
you look at
different,
it, yes. This one
because
down
you
here
don't
is
know whether
extremely
they're the ones that
fascinating.
made it
It's
over
a very
here
large
either.
pond, and it's, the whole pond is surrounded by stone. And, you know, it's, and
Yeah, but as I say, the only way you're gonna get anything done is by taking a little piece and working on that and get that done. And then I'll go to the next piece and whatnot, you know?
So I said, you need to take the bull by the horns, decide what you wanna do, and stick to that project until it's done.
Yeah.
Whether it's one cemetery a year for the next 1,520 years, or if it's one stone for the next, whatever, we have to finish it, and that's been always my goal, but then we have other conservation stuff that also has to be done.
well, my questions, my comment is, for the Historical Society, is to really consider, what exposure they want out of this. You know, from a Historical Society viewpoint, the case could be made that if they had the information in-house, that they could have events, or they could do something with the information.
Well,
Putting it on Google seems to
you know,
be
that-
almost
that-
counteractive, almost
Yeah, but they say,
counter-helpful. Just because it's a good mapping technology.
but they say, you know, the question came up about the tours that Olive used to give,
Yeah.
you know, 20-some odd years ago.
No.
People really loved that. That was interesting. And,
Yeah.
you know, that was only probably,
Yeah.
less than a dozen sites that she took people around to, but people still remember it, and they just.
Yeah,
around and
it's
said,
just that
is there any way we could turn around and do it without having Olive, still here to turn around and lead it? So the idea was to turn around and have something that would be self-guiding, we either put it on.
Yeah,
on-
but you,
on- in a
right, and
brochure
that,
or
and,
app or whatnot
and
that people
herein,
could do.
therein is my whole point, that the function that the tour guide is doing is a real function. It says, hey, Frank, I'm gonna bring a bunch of people to your house to show you what Dana Winchell used to do with that old cider press. You might say that's all right, you might say it's not,
Yeah.
you know? I might say, that house right there has 30-inch wide boards in it, and maybe that isn't information that should be out there. I
Yeah,
don't know. I think that.
privacy issue sometimes
Yeah.
with a lot of it. I mean, it does happen.
I used to fix old buildings, historical buildings. I know what's in some of them. I don't tell people what's in some of them. I'm not gonna do it.
The fact that somebody knows that my house is one of the earliest houses in the town of Acton,
That's
no
right.
problem with that.
Yeah, and
You
no,
know,
matter of fact, I would
that
go a
does-
lot.
That doesn't give them the license to come in and, make
no.
themselves at home in
No,
my house.
and matter of
No.
fact, it would be nice if they could understand how it's changed, how that house used to look and how it does now, because it used to have these historical attributes, now it has attributes of this year. There are some houses in Acton that have some real old historical things that you can see from a distance. You don't have to go on the property, you can see them from the road, and still learn history. And yes, having a guided tour like that would be good, you know?
No, that's like Mary Waterhouse's house.
Mhm.
All the history that's there. It used to be a bakery at one point in their lives. And why it was and what happened and, you know, it's a whole different ballgame. But does she want people to visit it all the time? I don't know. You'd have to ask permission things. We got a lot of different houses like that.
Well, what's your take on this? You've been sitting back and quiet.
He's
You have a take on it?
contemplating, he's our chair, he's thinking about this. I mean, I think the biggest thing is if we're gonna tell somebody about their homes and stuff, especially if it leads back to history, we should have some form of permission to do so. That way we're not getting into trouble either.
Well, I think my take was probably any initial thing that you did would be something that you could see it all from the road, so that you didn't have to.
That was the point I was just making.
That's what I'm saying.
That was the point I was just making, there's a
But
lot.
sometimes even from the road, like Wes gave a for instance, he saw the cemetery from the road, he went to go in it, somebody got upset because he went there.
And
But I think, you know, anything like this.
Because
whether
he
it be a
wasn't doing it
map
to be
or
mean, he
the-
just did it because
whatever.
that's our intention.
Whatever would lead you to it would have, you know, a description, okay, and have that, you know, the warnings on there, you know.
Oh, yeah. No,
These may provide the location, but does not provide permission to
Right,
enter
and
the
that's
property
kinda,
or whatnot. That if anybody is
especially in
interested,
today's world.
you know, make sure.
Yeah, it's
and
just that,
you know, 'cause
the other question I had was, do you want to make sure before you list it that you get permission from the
Yeah.
person that you're talking
That-
about?
that would probably be
That their
best.
house is going to be on a list.
I
And I don't, I'm sure when they did Acton history and they took pictures, they didn't ask everybody.
No,
And there was a lot of places they missed and some people got upset with it.
but then a lot of it,
But before we get to there, we
Yeah.
need to identify them, okay? And then once we're getting ready to say,
Yeah,
okay, these are the ones we're gonna do.
I almost understand where you're coming from, and yet I find it astounding. I do understand where you're coming from, but I find it hard to believe that most of this isn't known. I mean,
it's just not,
it's just
just
not.
not, it's
I
just
know.
not.
But,
I'm telling
you know,
it's just not.
no,
Well, how many people know
you're right.
half of what's on this sheet of paper?
Right, and the reason they don't is because of the terms that might be used. You know, the same place can be described, that's Verox's place, no, it's Winchell's place. No,
Right.
it's, you know,
It-
no.
That's it.
You know, and that's the reality of it. Now, and yes, if you put a Google and you say that's, it's not Verox's place, it's this latitude and this longitude, you know? That's not really teaching history, you know, unless you have the story to go with it, you know? But,
But that's just like, okay, Newfield, they got a corner named Mee's Corner, who knows about Mee's Corner?
the guy that built the house at Mee's Corner actually
Exactly.
worked on my house, because it was actually,
Exactly.
well,
But
Mee's
do-
Corner and Drew's Corner.
But yeah, but who knows that? But I'm just saying, who knows that? It's like throwing something out, you know, it's like different names for these roads. We've changed the names of some of these roads.
Yeah, it is
And
too
people don't
bad,
realize that when you look at it.
because George Mee could do the same thing. And George Mann could probably do the same thing to a large section of the town.
So I'm saying that
And
it's just, who
being a
knows it?
history buff, it's the stuff that's in beyond our recorded memory, which is, let's say, 1830 and beyond.
Beyond that.
No, in all honesty, that sounded stupid, but
No,
It's
because
truthful, after a while, you get weirder.
You go back.
you're talking, I mean, probably George's grandmother was alive then.
Yeah, that's right. There you go. That was my point. But what Lebanon did was they downsized.
I like that.
They downsized that kind of stuff. and
Can
they
you
put it onto a
recognize the
map.
homes? I recognize some of those homes. Can you
I
recognize
knew this
the
was
homes?
coming up tonight, so I prepared.
He was kind of surprised that he recognized some of the homes, some of the sketchings. You recognize some of those sketchings? You're better on that first page.
Yeah, I suppose that's the way it looks, still have the porch on it.
That's what I'm saying. But, you know,
Who did these sketches?
Well, I did those quickly this morning.
Yeah.
That was a
Oh,
straight
you did
copy.
those this morning?
That was a copy. But a lot of them, a lot of times, the images that they used didn't pick up the architectural features that would allow you to identify the house quickly. And it would be nice, you know, if you want to do that sometime, I certainly wouldn't mind doing it, because, again, I don't think that would be opposed to what he's about. Walk down the road with a digital camera and go play.
no, we could do that
You
as
know,
long as
because, you know,
we don't get our AKA in
Robertson's
trouble.
house down at the foot of my hill is really one of the real architectural gems of the town. And they don't have a good picture of Farnham's house. Whiteley's, because he bastardized it. You know, in terms of his history, he really did something
Different.
different with it. And that's a perfectly good word with architecture. Let's hope it.
Different. Beauty's of the eye of the beholder. Everything is a little
No,
different at
no,
times.
it's just,
It's different because we're not used to those kind of changes sometimes, Wes.
well, it's, you know,
It's just like, you know, me looking at okay, look
It's
at
like-
Hannah's house. It's good for instance.
architecturally, a 6/6 window has certain set sizes, and you can tell from a distance when they're fake, or when somebody's taken those out and put a molded double pane glass in to make it look like it, and it stands out like a sore thumb.
Growing
You know,
up,
you take one look at it, and you say, somebody downsized the windows. Why did they do that? I mean, what makes that house so valuable is the windows, to a large degree. Because I like working on old windows, you know, it's fun to fix old windows.
growing up,
But you know my point. The same way with the door. You take away the two lights in old houses, like Bill Watts' house. You know, it had the half lights. Klein's had a half light and a smaller light neon. It's sort of weird. Other people's, like the Sanborn house down here, had just the transom lights on top of the doors. You know, you see what I'm saying?
I know. That's what I was just gonna say. I mean, it's like Hannah's house. Growing up, it looked nothing like that. I mean, it's
Oh, no.
beautiful now,
Oh, no.
but it's not what we remember. It's the same way with the barn. The barn is still kind of the same structures, but it's not the same. It's what you picture and memorize
No,
and know
you know-
what happened. It's like everything else. The next
And
person buys it,
historically-
gets it, and goes on.
Historically, from the viewpoint of conservation, the sites that aren't there anymore are just as interesting as the ones that are. You know, what used to be at the Edgecombe place, or the Gauding farm, that barn was there when you were here. You know, that was quite a big barn on the other side of the road from the Gauding house. You know, it was in pretty bad shape, but it was too bad, I didn't like it when Nick Vane took it down. You know, he could have saved that. Wish he had asked. He could have saved.
But then
No.
again,
Um,
it's what they see. It's what they see. I mean, there's a
You
few
know,
others in town that
the Woodman Miller's place here,
happens.
you know, that thing was in very tough shape, you know, in 1983. And it was, you know, wasn't a timber in the floor that wasn't gone. Put it back. No, that's, I gotta go back up and look, because I did that from, the picture never showed that, and it didn't show Hobbs's barn on the backside. You know, and that barn was so big that it actually was in that photo.
Yeah.
But because of the angle of the photo, it didn't show the barn as being as far back
Right.
as it is. The same way as the Woodbury place on top of the hill. That barn was massive, you know, and the house was
And
on
reasons
and on
for
and
it.
on, you know. But that barn sat back quite a ways beyond the house, but it was so big that the photo, you couldn't tell from the photo how far back it was,
Huh.
you know.
On all is the same way. They had a huge barn.
Yeah, now, was that in
Mountains.
plane, was that in the same plane as the L? I think it was. I've been in there enough times with the kid to say that the L ran even with the front of the barn.
You mean how it went directional wise? You know, as a kid, I never thought about that. I didn't. I never
Well,
thought about
it's
that.
just like the historical records say that they added a bay to this building that we're sitting in.
Well, we had we know we had
Did
tabs.
it to the front or to the back? And we've had this debate.
Probably to the front.
It was to the front so that they lined up.
It
Yeah,
was to the front because they wanted to line up with the storm.
Yeah, My personal opinion, they probably should have never added these buildings together. That's my personal opinion. What you guys take from that is what you take from that. Just because this building has a few miscellaneous issues, obviously, because it's old.
Yeah, part of it is probably due to the, having
Well-
been joined to the other building.
Exactly.
What do
And
you
I think if it had been
what do you
left
think we
alone,
could do there
you
with
wouldn't
it?
have had so many problems.
You know?
And then they attached.
I don't know.
The library area, so I mean,
We've been told to stay clear of history. We've been told that.
who? Why? That's
Because
part,
we're not a historical conservation.
that's part of our, who told you
No.
that?
Nobody told us that. They cut the rec office and cut the other office in theory.
Well, we're still got history. My understanding, we're still part of history. That was even when I was on it, it was still history.
Anyways, they've got this thing over in the town tomorrow for the watershed group.
Here?
The Three Rivers Trust is trying
What time?
Probably 6:30.
6:30, 7 o'clock?
I'm pretty sure it's in Hackney or something. I thought it was in.
I didn't see it, but maybe I
Three
overlooked
Rivers
it.
Trust is,
Three Rivers Trust has got, okay, let me see if I can back up with this. Apparently there's apparently money enough to try to promote easements the same way they do agriculture for forestry.
Right.
And they're trying to get they're trying to get the word out that they'd like to give people the option to put land under easements rather than develop. So they're trying to take development rights away from forestry the same way they did for some of the more choice pieces of farmland down in, let's say, Exeter and down on the coast. So there's a project amongst the trust groups to work together on this. Because, I don't know, the thinking is that if they can do more projects at once, they get
More funding?
more, it's easier to fund and get more of the paperwork done, whatever. Oh. It's a funny issue. I see value.
Of course, you know how I feel.
Yeah, no, I think it's something the Conservation Committee ought to be, if you can go, I can't make it tomorrow at all.
I
So
can't either, I'm gonna be in Boston.
you're gonna be in Boston. All
I
right.
can attempt it.
Maybe,
I make no
Gavin
promises.
will maybe know
Gavin
might know something about it. I mean, obviously Tom would be involved.
It's a different kind of a world where they hold a meeting on Ash Wednesday. You'd think they'd be smart enough not to do that, but
Yeah.
they don't. You know, somebody is not wise enough to realize that you're gonna cut a lot of people out just by doing that.
Yeah, 'cause technically
Because I'd be there if I'd want playing
Not going to be.
an instrument somewhere.
Well, that's kind of
But,
why I said I'm not 100% certain. Because it is Ash Wednesday.
If there is a downside to that, I think it should be not just water related. You know, and that seems to be, they're tying it to the Salmon Falls effort as opposed to, why not just say forestry for forestry? You know, a large chunk of forest needs to be saved for forest, not just for its impact on the water supply. I'm not trying to be negative about that, I'm just saying.
Speaking of which, I
I'm
have
just
a-
saying that there's forest should be valued as forest.
I have cottontail out back.
Do you?
My brother-in-law was saying last fall when he was out there, there
You
was
got,
a bunch of cottontail.
have you got habitat that's good for them?
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's money for that. There might be, you know.
Well, let's see the approach, she's probably
There are
got,
programs for
she's
it.
probably got eastern cottontails and they wanna
They want a Weston?
no, they want New England cottontails, they were different rabbits.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, apparently, this Shapley Conservation Group is in on this, you know,
Yeah.
so there's an effort, a concerted effort to to get people who are trying to protect ecological things to get in behind the trust movement or the easement movement. Working farms.
Right, a lot left.
No, and
Martha Baddock, only think of two.
I'm one that likes the idea of agriculture, working as agriculture. There used to be a lot of agriculture in Acton. That's why I've got so many of those things
Yes.
on that list, and I didn't even get started. What's the best way to promote it? And to recognize it as agriculture, as potential agriculture, to say that this soil is good agricultural soil and ought to be promoted as that. That might be the highest and best use for it, as opposed to just leaving it,
In trees.
yeah, you know.
I mean, there's something to be said for anything that's flat in Acton.
So I'm not trying to be negative. I'm trying to
Yeah, I know
say.
what you're trying to say. You're trying
I'm
to
trying
say,
you
keep
need
your
to-
minds
I-
open.
You need to look out beyond the box and
Yes.
say, heck, I've gone down this road, this far, I might as well keep going. If we're looking at natural resource inventories, water is not the only criteria. Wildlife is, quality of life is, forestry is a viable thing. You know, like, there is such a thing as a forest products industry. You know, good wood takes time to grow. And
Basically, the points they all hit on the time they had the meetings here.
so anyways, I guess I made it aware that there is a meeting. But, did anybody go to the building code meeting? Did you
Well,
go to that?
I have been sick. Oh.
No, I don't think, I think it was one of those very brief jobs.
Well, that's the other big thing conservation people get in. You ever seen that one?
The whole
What,
building,
New
I
Hampshire?
just, you know, like, they just voted on it, it was all over like in 7 minutes.
Wes, does the committee have any interest in getting involved with the Canal Road Bridge?
That's a hard one, too. I read some of Mary's notes, that's it.
We have no choice, I don't think we have any choice not to weigh in on it in some way. I don't know how anybody wants to weigh in
Tell
on
us
it.
about everything.
Okay, you,
Well, one of the things that was brought to my attention today,
that might keep you just look at it. That's a very old document, or a piece thereof.
the road committee is getting involved with it, but it was brought up to my attention today, okay, that the Canal Road Bridge, town of Acton had nothing to do with it. It belongs strictly to New Hampshire.
Since when? Because last time I knew there was work being done to it, we actually helped supply
Well-
some of the work.
Well, as I say, that, you know, that's a question. you
That's
know,
why I said,
that if-
since
that if it-
when?
That if
Because I know when Tom
town
and
of
Nancy
Acton had
were
nothing to do with it,
selectmen.
I don't know why anybody,
Well, as far as I know, the state line runs right down the middle of the
Yep.
canal.
Because I know when
But
Tom and
it's
Nancy were selectmen, we were involved in it.
You know, that is really a legal, interesting point. I'm not gonna say you're not right.
but anyway, there's a meeting, I think next week, or this week or next week,
Next week.
at AWWA over in,
They seem to be behind it for one reason or another, but I think there's a separate committee to save the canal bridge. I think it's a separate group that's been working for a long time.
well, anyway.
They're running it through
Just for
AWWA.
your information, members of the road committee have been going to those meetings, okay? At the last road committee meeting, Larissa was there, and the road committee really doesn't feel they want to be, you know, the main point from Acton. So they recommended to the selectmen to set up a committee, a separate committee. And Larissa mentioned, you know, of getting the conservation committee involved. know whether the selectmen have talked to you about it or not.
I can't say I'm not aware of what's going down. 'Cause
But
I
as
am.
far as verbally
But,
being talked to, we haven't, I don't think.
So
we
if you
have.
didn't know, now you know.
Oh, no, I did know. And, I'm not a lawyer. And, I've said it before, there's two ends to the dragging, and we've got the tail, somebody else might have the mouth. But there's two ends to this dragon.
Yeah.
And I think all the watershed that impinges on Acton boundaries is important to this committee. You know, I think water is important to this committee. I don't necessarily believe that New Hampshire owns both sides of the river. I don't think that. But-
Didn't
but-
say that, didn't say
No,
that.
I know.
But the bridge.
Right. No,
And
I
the canal,
said that,
okay.
I said that not in counterpoint. What I was saying was that, a matter of fact, I think the federal government has interest in the, in the river. But, you know, I think it's the people's river, you know, but, there are water rights on it that are out there in a court of law that supersedes Acton's rights. And I think it's those rights and the control of those water rights that is the legal statement behind what you're saying, which is who owns the canal. Well,
That's been
there's
on
no
before.
control of the water rights unless you've got something that can control it. It's not a free-flowing river.
That debate's been around for a long time.
It's not a free-flowing river. So, and historically, it's quite interesting. You know, I've seen, you know, documents of where does the river begin, where does it end. But,
But I just want to make sure you are aware that it's going on.
So where's the
There-
meeting
there's a
supposed to be
meeting.
held?
You know, is it this week or next week?
I gotta go look. I got the date, so it has to, it should be this week. It should be this week sometime.
Thursday,
I can't tell you. I'm not sure.
10:45?
Would it be here?
No, it's
Over the place over in Union.
yeah, AWWA's office there.
I don't know where that is. I don't know where they're located over there.
It's
So,
on
you know,
your left, just
plan
past the
on
railroad.
going just to-
It really is,
find out
it
what's going
really, it really is a hot issue. It, you know, and everybody is on pins and needles with it, because there's so much involved with it. It's just like the bridge. You need the bridge. You need, that bridge serves a function.
Yeah,
But-
but in order to maintain the historic aspects of it, you cannot turn around and allow all these great big lumber trucks and loaded.
I know, but I'm one,
cement
I'm
trucks
one
and-
that puts life over history. I'll do that. You know,
So-
and.
No, but as I say,
Tough
somebody
one.
pointed out to me, no, maybe the best way to do it is if they want to maintain the roadway, is they turn around and come up with some money and build a new bridge for the traffic, and then keep the old one as a historic, you know.
Foot traffic?
You're closer to the Boston. What did they do with the Boston? What did they do with the Minuteman Bridge?
It's just sitting out there in the middle of
It's
the field.
it's in the middle of the field. There's a different road. But that was the road, and now it's the Minuteman's Bridge, and that's the analogy that's the only thing I can come up with, you know?
Well, no, but as I say, you know,
That was a piece thereof of that canal.
how are you
I
ever
said
turn
that's a
around
piece
and
of that
bring
canal.
something,
Yeah.
maintain
What's
the
interesting
historic,
is the ledges relative
problem
to
is
the
that
elevation change.
there's no cement or concrete in there.
Grab that, it's
All the
brand
stones are laid
existing.
and they are,
For the lake
and
is really quite interesting.
it's not holding up to
And the water
all the
rights
loads
thereof,
that are being run
how
over it
much
every day.
the
Supposedly, they
mills
turned
bought,
around and
they-
limited
Not knowing,
the load,
they didn't know.
then somebody
They-
tears the signs
they
down,
wrote their
and
deeds
who's up
right
there,
at the dam.
you know, policing, make sure that great big
The real question is,
loaded
how did they build,
logging
how
truck.
did they build the canal?
doesn't go over it, you know?
You know, people don't normally think of
Guy
how you
comes
dam a river. or
Tearing
build a
across,
dam.
you know, and all of a sudden,
But,
you know, I didn't see no
you
sign.
Well, you dam half
Oh,
of it.
where's the sign?
You can't stop the water from flowing.
No.
I guess I didn't realize
So,
that
you know
part
what I'm
of it
saying?
was
And then you
going
break
on.
it and hope it doesn't blow everything out.
You know, it's
Say,
actually a
somebody's
logical
making a decision,
consequence.
you know?
It's-
You either want to maintain that historic,
That's what it is.
or
And you're in hopes it
Down
doesn't
and
blow
wanna
it
make
up in
it happen.
process. So
But,
it
or
works.
all the,
I don't think that there is a choice.
Now, did you find this in Maine or New Hampshire?
Well, I mean, not just
No, that's
from a,
in somebody's
but I
private.
think
Oh, I didn't
it's
know
on the
if
historical
you
record.
found that in Maine or New
No,
Hampshire.
that's
So as I say, if they want to maintain thing, then the alternate way, you turn around and get down 100 feet and put a,
But you notice,
Steel
the
bridge
stone
across or
bridge does
something,
belong
you know.
to
that's
the
made
person
with
who generated.
today's
Whoever did
materials
did
and
this for
carry
somebody,
the load.
Yeah.
and they put the arch in, so, it wasn't, it didn't say the arch belongs to the town.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
So the arch probably did go
the
with
problem with
the
people doing that kind of stuff is
the
that they
rights
don't think.
of the canal.
You know what the solution in Switzerland
So
was?
legally, how do you get your
They
handle
banned all
on that?
18-wheelers.
You
No
know?
18-wheelers. That was how they stopped that problem.
That's been a hot topic for a long time, because they don't know
They
when
don't
the
even
work
let, they
conditioning
just don't
had
let
to
them
be
in the
done.
country.
See, I'm much more
Over
concerned
the-
about
You drive in,
The
put
large
something that's
scale.
gotta be offloaded onto smaller trucks.
watershed practice that we're doing that puts the lake at jeopardy, against the dam at jeopardy, against the canal at jeopardy.
Is that where that, part of that canal is underwater? Is that where it is?
It absolutely extends way up beyond the boundary markers, up into the lake.
Yeah,
Down.
you can see it under the water.
Yeah. So it's, you don't think of these things,
It's
but
a-
I
it's
was
pretty
looking, I was looking at a 1954 aerial defense map of flyways over this area. And the breakwaters at Camp Ellis, where they go out to channel the river's water. Now, there's all sorts of money out there to try to figure out what the river is doing to the Gulf of Maine. How far does the plume go? How far is this going to do? We don't even look at the maps. If they went, they're all engineered. It's a re-engineered world. And like, you could see it walking along VZ's Point. VZ's is an old family down in Brentwood. And, he sold
Well,
the
I've
property
actually,
to the
the
Ricketts.
the
But
Camp Ellis place, I know somebody whose family owns like a piece of land that's under 20 feet of water now.
Yeah.
No, there's a backwash to the river that's obviously doing some things down there. But, and yet if you look at the old maps, the basins seem to be within the pictures of where they are now. And yet, if you play around with an elevation change on the lake, so that's what's interesting, is to compare the historical record with what's there. The same way as a pictograph of your house, and somebody that's really interested in history would say, the windows aren't what they used to be. And it's an old house, but they shouldn't have done that historically. And that's an opinion. People move doorsteps, other people get upset by it. But there are some times when that history actually comes into playing with what might be a conservation issue, and the canal is a case in point.
So have we touched everything on the agenda
I guess
that you
we-
want to touch? I'm just asking, because you
Well,
guys, I want to make sure.
Don't just adjourn. Well, that's show and tell. That's important.
I like this part of show and tell. I'm still peeking.
You like that?
Yes, I do like this. This is neat. I'm just double checking, because I know we did have an agenda, and I want to make sure that we've touched base on everything we need to.
I'm fine. But, I think we're gonna, I don't know if we need to take an action on any of that stuff or not,
Well, why don't you tell us what's on your list, and that way we can,
We touched it.
we
Well,
did
what-
touch
what do
base
you
on
wanna- What do
this
you want to do for next week, next one?
by next month. As
Next
far as,
Agenda items.
well, obviously, we're gonna have to decide, whether we wanna, we're gonna have to touch base with Hannah and see if they wanna do that
I mean,
subcommittee.
it's interesting, you go all the way back to the original proprietors map for Wakefield. and you look up in the corner of Great East, and you see those two lots. And one of them, lot 89 up there is split. And all the issues come out of that decision.
Well,
Wes, have you ever read gone on the town's website and read the historical background?
yeah.
I don't need to, but, I don't need to.
Some of it's factual, some of
Did
it's
you know
not
that
so.
the town of Acton is east of Shapley?
As I said, some of it's factual and some of it's not so factual.
No,
I don't know who wrote that, but
Well, the thing is that history
You know what I'd like to,
doesn't get asked to the right
in terms of
person.
the Historical Society, because I remember so many of the people that were involved when it was founded. I know who they are. I can't say I remember when it was founded. I was aware of the process. But, I know that the Historical Society has a real role to play in making a community
well,
going forward.
yeah, but we got a group now that is really working hard to build up, the records down there. I was able to turn around and I was able to provide them with, they have every copy of the town reports from the 1800s all the way up till today.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
That's good.
but I bet you don't have that even in the town of Acton.
No,
No.
I know where they're.
Whether it's in the town hall or whether it's in the library,
I have a lot of the
We,
reports are at my house.
there's more,
Town
there's an
reports.
awful lot in the wall that isn't being used.
My husband asked me, he says,
I
"What are
have
you
a
doing
good
now?"
idea
I
what's
said,
in there, but, there's a lot of history that can be dug out, but you have to do a work at it. Some of the tax maps from the 1890s to 1910 in this town are phenomenal. Because, if you had 5 lots, they defined the boundaries of those lots, and then they taxed each of the lots out, what the tax for each lot was. And if you could just put that all together,
Basically, whatever
you'd
the
get
one
a
is
very
now.
nice map of what the town looked like in 1910. Now, we have a nice map 1872, we have a nice map 1856. Before 1856, it's in somebody's head. We've got the proprietor's map and then another.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff I like, is the early 20, 25, 30 years of the town. That's when the decisions were made. That's when they decided to put the mills and the dams and cut out the big pieces and where the choice farms are going to be located. That's the history. We don't have any maps of that history.
That's what you're saying in your head.
And it's so nice, we say we got this GPS system, but how can you correlate the GPS system with what's happened on the landscape in such a way that it can make us better stewards of it?
I've never looked, there's no Shapley map from like before 1830 that would have included Acton.
There is Holland's map, of the Holland's general map. Yeah, I've got some maps in the 1830s, but they're regional. And
I wonder what it was like in 1491,
that's just the point.
because the Indians were here and they probably had more agriculture than
Oh.
exists now.
Yeah, and they probably had a better understanding of the ways of the ways of the land and the ways the water works, the whole business. And
Oh, interestingly enough, they never did the Three Sisters thing east of the Saco. This would have been as far
is that right? Yeah.
as they went. They didn't try to do that.
What's that?
Three
Growing
sisters.
3 things at once.
With the corn and the squash and the
But
beans.
there were Indian mounds, Indian garden sites on top, close to Gala, so, and I've heard stories of different graveyard sites, regionally, fairly close.
All right.
Alton Circle was a very extensively traveled area. The Cachico
Yes, the
out
Kachiga.
close to Farmington was an extensive valley area, as was where Waste Management is. That area under the isinglass was extensively utilized.
Same
so-
way
so
over
it's
by
interesting.
Douglas.
And
Mills
Secaucus,
Hospital.
of course, which goes back to Shapley, the Keys Falls area, that area was very extensively used. But, the coastline is fascinating with that question. What did it look like, prior to a lot of the silting in
Yeah,
that we did by carving up so much? Or maybe just natural sea level changes, or maybe the differences in wind currents because of offshore, when we cut all these forests inland the way we did, there had to be a shifting in the dune patterns. There had to be coastal effects that you don't normally think of, but there had to be.
I don't know how much there was in the way of big forests before the Europeans came. The Indians tended to
Well, along the coast
Have
it
a
was
lot of
savanna,
nut-
yeah.
nut-bearing trees.
Well, obviously we took a lot of pine off for a long time. You can't, the masting industry was there.
We
And
were
they
having
take
chestnuts around
they take
here.
a couple
We used to
hundred
have
years to reach the
wicked
size that
chestnut
they had.
trees.
Well, they all died in the
Yeah.
plague.
So,
I remember as a
and
kid, we used to go pick up
the military talks
And then,
of chestnuts and some of the things that they use for knees, for the bracing in these ships. Some of those trees were pretty massive, but like you say, not bearing trees, so that's valid. I come across old Acton records, the records pertaining to landscape of Acton that talks about masting roads and things like that, so.
Yeah, once in a while I do,
you
like the
come
hopper or
across-
something like
You come
that.
across, old references to land use.
Yeah.
You have to spend a lot of time in county. County gives a lot of information, what they can,
But there is a period where there's very
There is.
little history
yeah.
of the area. We don't know an awful lot about it,
I mean, the earlies, yes, but didn't they have they had a massive fire that destroyed a lot of the records at one point, wasn't
There
there?
was
Like two or
fires,
three,
yes, that
yeah.
destroyed records, and then there was on the landscape, there was fires that literally destroyed the landscape.
Right,
In the 1760s, had a lot of fires in Lebanon and southern Maine. And, they literally forest, lights just like in 1947. And I don't know what North Shantley looked like. What did Brownfield look like before that fire? And that's within our record. That's within our recorded history. Almost. 1947 is before me, but those were massive fires.
yeah.
Now,
Well, I gotta think about getting
yeah,
home.
we gotta get going.
Getting ready to adjourn, if that helps you.
Yeah, we're about done.
He's doing his work. But, as far as, when did you guys wanna get the poster board and all that stuff done for those posters? You said earlier than last year, and I don't know when I thought April, May you guys did that, or what, did you guys decide on that?
We didn't say that. She just wanted to do it earlier.
Yeah, what's earlier?
Do they have a spring break? When did?
I'm
April,
not sure, Hannah is the only one that's got any contact with the schools anymore.
Okay.
That's the,
April,
Well,
it's got school.
If you're gung ho to get on that would
I'm
be
just
good.
asking, I'm
No.
not gung ho,
Oh.
you guys did this, I wanna know what you guys want us to do, what you want,
I think we need to give the schools a little more time.
You guys know what you wanna do.
We did come up with a subject content, I thought.
Cause I know in January you guys were gonna talk about it and I was ill, so. What was the theme? Thank you.